We're live.
Welcome. We'll start by the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Today, if you haven't noticed, we're on a new camera and audio system, and our tech expert's down at the end, so if anything happens, he's going to make it right for us. First thing we need to approve is the agenda. We have a couple additions. Greg Jarber would like to speak under public comments. We're going to move the Chestnut Grove property up to the top right after public comments so that Kim can get back to work. And then I have a few miscellaneous things I want to add just for discussion at the end of the meeting. Any other additions, modifications? If not, I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as modified.
I'll make that motion, Randy.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Greg, you're on.
All right, I'm quick. Took me longer to walk up there than it was to make my comment. So, first, the phone system is done in the sense of installation, that kind of stuff up and running. And it's documented. The only outstanding item that I got is the old phones. I've got 104 of the old Aave phones. I don't know what you want me to do with them. If it was me, I'd send them to recyclers. That's what I would do.
Is there any value?
Any value you get on them, you're going to spend the shipping to whoever's buying them. That's what you're going to end up doing. I mean,
Then I would, my opinion, if everybody's okay with it, give it to the recycling people, let them run it through the electronics, and
be done with it. That's what I would
I don't
Do
know.
we have to claim them as surplus?
Surplus,
Yeah.
that's, so in the inventory, I'd say yes, and then we'll have
Probably
to.
not in the inventory, but I would still, it would still probably be something to put on the next agenda and just do it. They're sitting in my garage all in a box, so
We'll just have to determine their excess and
they'll stay there
no
until
value or whatever.
Yeah.
They're-
And once we determine that, call it surplus and then just take it to recycling.
total value, if you did them all, is probably like somewhere between $3 to $5 a phone is what you get. So it's $300 to $500. Probably that's a good value to put on it at this point. But you'll spend that in boxing them up and shipping them out and everything else because they won't accept them unless they're cleaned, put in a box individually, and then shipped out. So you'll spend more money doing that.
Unless shipping would cost that much, just
Well, the
shipping.
labor of just cleaning them and putting them in boxes is going to be.
And finding somebody that wants them.
Yeah, well, you could probably do that relatively easy because there's always people that like that old stuff for some reason. They have, having spares, but there's just not. You're going to lose money
Trying to do that.
So,
Yeah.
And after that, I guess it's okay for me to bill was my only other question, and you're ready for it. Invoice, unless there's something else somebody else comes up with.
Now, the only other thing, Greg, you had talked about EFAX.
EFAX is still out there. That's outside this project. Though.
Yeah,
It's a
but we're still, that's a PSC issue.
Yeah.
Depending on whether they're going to offer
whether they're
that or
going to
not.
offer it or not. I hope they do because it will simplify the system dramatically for you guys. You won't have to worry about fax machines anymore. You can do it from your email. You can actually fax from your email and that kind of stuff. So it'd be a lot better. We are doing a couple other things for like Allen. We're looking at an ArcNet phone line so we can get rid of AT&T and some other bills that are costing us some money that we shouldn't necessarily have. We also switch over their internet to PSCI instead of Comcast too, maybe as well. So we're just looking at that in the sense of, is the profitable? And they're minor things in the sense of capital. You're talking like moving some wires around, so very few dollars capital wise, but can we save money in the long run switching the vendor? So
Okay, is all our fax machines analog still?
all the fax machines are analog, which that's an additional charge from PSC when you have that. So
Right.
What we would do is switch to eFax and then remove those analog. My thought process is if you have one eFax, everyone can use that one eFax.
Correct.
Because it is no longer tied to a physical location. It is tied to your computer. So,
Right, and then we wouldn't have to actually buy any scanning devices.
correct.
Okay.
No more capital costs there.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, would that be just here for the courthouse or for all county?
Everywhere.
To me, I would do it everywhere. Wherever you have the phone system, I would do it. So that'd be the annex, it'd be here, it'd be,
What about the county garage?
Yeah.
County garage you could do it at too, because they're on PS, are they on
Yep.
PSC phones
Yeah,
now?
they've been on there all along.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that'd be easy to do out there as well.
Okay.
It's a real cost savings, and then we don't have to buy any equipment. And
Yeah.
everybody can just do it electronically like an email.
Yeah.
It's
And
what it does.
It's a lot better record keeping too, because that email stays in your sent folder.
Mhm.
So, if you send a fax, it's there and it's documented, when you sent it and what it was and everything, so.
Yeah. But they have to start that service before we can. That's kind of the holdup.
Yeah.
PSC hasn't decided yet whether they're going to do that or not. So, when and if.
That's it.
Thanks, Greg.
So if you
Thank
put
you.
that on the next agenda, I appreciate it. Surplus.
You got that, Chris?
Yep.
Next item up is the Chestnut Grove Road property. Kim is here from the Health Department. And it's, for those of you that's not aware of it, it's kind of been an ongoing thing with apparently looks like a junkyard they're running out there.
So the property is owned by Tony Hollenden and Eldon Kendall. Eldon is buying it on contract, so it's kind of, that throws a wrench in it as well, because who do you go after for the property? So when I sent my first notification, I sent it to both as an order to abate nuisances, because there is a lot of concern. If you'll notice the first packet, which has, it's this one here is the first packet. And you'll notice there is a lot of refuse, whether that's garbage or recyclables. The camper is on the right of way. There's just a whole lot of issues here. There's also a ditch that runs through the property that had refuse in the ditch. So we addressed a lot of issues. The first contact that I made with Eldon was not pleasant. He was very defensive and told me to get off of his property. And, as a health department, I do have a right to be on the property to inspect it, and I informed him of such. I was already done with my inspection, so I left. And I would have anyway, just because out of respect for him, he was upset. He contacted me a few days later, and he was remorseful, said, "I'm sorry, I got upset because I feel like I was being attacked." I understand that. I do. This is the way he makes his living, is by selling property that he has reclaimed from other locations. I did explain to him, however, that you can't just have things everywhere, even though it's your property, which technically it's not. So, like I said, that's, again, another issue. But there comes a time when your stuff becomes a health hazard. And this was definitely, I was contacted earlier, I guess it was probably late 2022, late 22, and was told of a concern of a neighbor. And I went and looked at the site and did not feel at that point it was a health hazard. It was not. There was nothing there. There's stuff, but it was not a health hazard. So I did nothing at that point. When she contacted me again, she was agitated because nothing had been done. And I told her, I said, I did go and look at the property. The property was maybe not like you would have your property, but it's definitely not a health hazard. And she said, it's changed. Okay. So I went back out to the property, and it had definitely changed for the worse. It had, probably 4 times as much refuse on it as it had previously. And it was uncovered, and it was, as you see in the photos, not something that is safe. And it's also harborage for rodents, vectors, all sorts of things. So, like I said, when I talked to Mr. Kendall, he was pretty upset about, he felt attacked. I left the property that day, wrote his letter, printed the pictures, explained to him, again, that this is what needs to be done. You have to store these things properly or you can't have them on your property. There was also garbage, and he told me he was going to burn it. I told him he couldn't burn it. He said he's in the county. I said it doesn't matter. As a county, we have a no burn ordinance, so only pure wood can be burned, brush, that type of thing. So that was also something that was addressed. And if you'll notice in the new packet, he took out all of anything plastic, anything that was not a wood product, except for he hasn't got the drywall, I don't think, out yet, which he does plan to get. This gentleman has worked alone and done all of this by himself and has made amazing progress. He is allowed by health standards to have stuff on his property if it's covered, if it's concealed to where it's not a health hazard causing water or vector harborage or rats or rodents, which I see no evidence of. The issue that I had with when I went back, he's not finished. He still has the side yard, which you could see in the photos, and the camper. So the camper is not running, and he is working on that. He's working on selling parts and pieces of it in order to get it moved, because he has no means to move it at this point. But he is working on that. So at this point, I am still in a good position. I feel that he is working towards making this property, improving this property. I don't know how you guys feel or what steps you're wanting to take, but he is continually improving, and as the weather gets better, I only see more things being done. So,
Was he given a deadline on cleaning it?
So it's really tough to give a deadline on something of this nature because it's so big. I mean, this is a huge undertaking. If we wanted to give a deadline at this point, I feel like we could. Before, I really didn't feel like there was a way to say you have 90 days, because I think that's impossible. We're setting them up to fail. I don't want to give him a year because that's, letting it go. But I do feel like it's going to take months to get through all of the property. But he's done such a huge amount in such a short amount of time that I think, by giving him, say, a total of 3 months from today or the next letter, I think that he could have the camper moved and the rest of the refuse stored properly.
Is that trash? Back over there around the tree, is that just?
There is a trash pile, and you'll see I took a picture. Let's see, did I?
It just looks like it's trash piled up back there.
That is the wood pile that used to be trash. It's not that close to the tree. Let's see if I've got a better picture of that, because I didn't print all of my photos.
In my opinion, and this is my opinion, I would not go there or anywhere else unless I had a deputy with me.
Well, I understand that.
For your safety.
Yeah. I don't like to tie up resources. I am very aware of my safety. I've been in jobs throughout my career where I've had to do, such. I know how to enter a property. I know where to stand on a property to get out. I'm not saying I'm invincible, and I'm not saying I wouldn't want somebody to go with me. However, how do you choose which properties to go to and which properties not to? And I did speak to law enforcement before I went to this property. You know, that was one of the things about getting there. It was like trying to set it up. And finally I just went. And, you know, when I went back,
I feel too that if we show up, sometimes it's gonna hinder what you're doing already. You got a good report now, correct?
right.
I would be, we deal with each other so much that
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I feel that would maybe hinder that if we show up and then it's looking like a threat. So be careful saying that. I don't wanna do that right yet until
I know.
you say so. See, you
And
agree?
I wouldn't, yeah, and I do totally, because that is perceived as, oh, I'm bringing down the law on them,
Mhm.
you know.
Do you protocol like when you go like that? I know you contacted a deputy or contacted.
Mhm.
Could it be possible she contact like dispatch and tell them what her schedule if she's,
And I
Going to
do
a
that
resident
for the
like-
health department. The girls know where I'm
Okay.
going.
as long as
when I'm
somebody
going.
knows what.
Yeah, and sites like this particularly, you know, I said, okay, I'm going here. If I'm not back in 30 minutes, you know,
Yeah,
I'm looking.
Good, good.
Because they were close. I mean, you know, we're close to that site.
On that subject here, we have a sheriff's deputy out front here. In the event that the courts, something escalates, he's right here to get there responsive quickly. That's sometimes in divorce situations, it can get out of hand. This could be the same way when you come on someone that feels like their property is their property and they'll do whatever they want to. The nice thing about a police officer is they have a radio on them
Mhm.
that automatically can draw a big crowd if it does get
And
out of
maybe I
hand.
can carry a
Some way where you
some
can,
type of a
you know,
radio.
Immediate communication.
Because you need that backup, because if you start, at a moment's notice, something can happen
Sure,
and you need to be able to call in somebody to help you.
yeah,
Right.
So we don't want to have a situation that
right.
so
It's
that would
all
be-
for your safety.
Yeah.
So maybe a radio is an alternative, and make them aware that you're there, and then they'll be aware where to go in the event that you
Right.
say, and they need someone here quickly.
Yeah. Here is the trash, what was going to be his burn pile, before I told him he wasn't burning it. And
Do you know, did he, how did he remove that trash? I mean, would he,
he took dumpsters, or
Okay.
he took a dumpster there and loaded it
Okay.
and took it off, because I did make sure that there was
relocated
proper
someone.
handling of, refuse.
Yeah.
You said that he and Tony Holland and both,
So Tony owns the property and Eldon is buying it on contract.
does that have to be recorded in the recorder's office? Is it?
Well, it doesn't have to be, it should be, but.
I don't know how that works.
See if it's-
And see, that was kind of the thing, I didn't know legally who is responsible for the property. I mean, it's Eldon's stuff.
And,
Yeah.
and Jane, when we first initiated this, I asked you and you couldn't find anything as a recorded document.
Okay.
So I did that for that same purpose, because if it changes the responsibility, if it's a
Right.
recorded contract
Okay,
versus just something and there may be a contract,
between
they need-
them,
but they need to
Right.
record that if the responsibility needs to shift.
right.
So,
Well, and I did, like I said, I put Tony on there and I know he is, he got the letter, for his responsibility in the park. So I spoke to him.
so your recommendation at this time is it's a kind of leave it alone? Possibly, do we want to send him a letter? I mean, I don't know, or whether.
I would like to send a follow-up letter to
90 days
give
to
him
get it
a
completed.
deadline of completion, to congratulate him on what he's done. This man has busted his tail. He's done a lot of work.
Well,
We
there's,
didn't get this in this shape overnight.
Nope, but he got it out of that shape in a very quick amount of time. I mean, you can see ground
Mhm.
where there was refuse piled high. And, and, you know, he told me, he said, you know, I'm not throwing this away. He said, this is my livelihood. He said, I strip wire and, you know, sell the copper. It's not mine to judge where he gets any of it. I don't know or care, but I know that he is making an effort to improve the property because he didn't realize that he couldn't, or that it was a health hazard.
And
You
this-
can, by ordinance, it does call for us to allow to have an acceptable cleanup plan with specifying dates in that cleanup plan. So you could direct her to work with him to have acceptable cleanup plan in her mind, with dates where maybe we'll clean up this part of the property, by X date. We'll get this, pile moved by this date so that there's some hard deadlines that he knows when things have to be moved. And that is allowed for in our ordinance.
Right. And that's probably, and work with him, whatever, because he probably has something in his mind as to what he's going to approach next.
Right.
So that you make him aware of that. And, yeah, but we're coming into the summer, so he should be able. The only issue we're getting into now is it seems though it's a residential zoned area by Tell City, and he's operating a business in it. So, did you have a chance, Andrew, to talk with the city attorney?
I mean, last time I spoke with him, he didn't think they could enforce it from their perspective.
He thinks he cannot.
Yes, that was the last I received
Right.
from him, but I don't know if you've spoken to him more recently or
Yeah.
spoken to.
What the mayor suggested is having the two attorneys to come to a conclusion. Now, in my opinion, that whoever's going to zone it needs to be able to enforce it.
Mhm.
And whether that's the county or the city wants to give up the 2 mile outside of their city limits, the county then will take it over, and then our zoning will come into play, and then we can enforce it. But it needs to be established as to who is zoning it and who's enforcing it legally.
Okay.
So that'll be our next step, because it's kind of outside the health department, but we're going to run into these same zoning issues.
So is selling scrap, I mean, and this is just a personal question for me because I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have people coming to his house to buy this per se on a daily basis or looking at his goods. Is it different than me saving cans and selling them when I have enough cans?
I think if you had your cans inside of your garage and you were saving them and you're going to go sell them and do that, that's kind of a
But
personal
because of the
recycling.
size
But
of
when you're on the
this-
outside and you're doing it, it gets into more of a commercial operation versus something personally you're doing.
Gotcha.
It's going to go back to the zoning ordinance, and they have specific requirements for R1 zoning, and that's what that's in out there.
Yeah,
And it wouldn't include anything that was an outside type operation like that.
right.
Now, once they get on their personal, it's just like that, I don't know what the regulations would be on a camper that's unlicensed on private property. Probably it can stay there because it is their property, but
So
That's
there
a
is an
zoning.
ordinance about broken down
Vehicles.
campers, vehicles.
Even
that
on
are not
private
allowed.
property?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So-
And that's what I hit him with first.
Mhm.
I said, it has to move. He said, it moves. I said, move it. He said, I can't right now. Well, it turns out it didn't move.
Right.
Well, you said he was going to sell parts off this.
In
Well,
order to move it, to
yeah,
get
well,
rid of it.
Yeah, I mean, if he's selling parts, would that not be considered a business? I mean,
That's-
it's a fine line.
Yeah.
there.
If you sell, if I have a car that's broke down and I sell parts off of it, is it a business?
But
I'm
Right.
just playing the devil's advocate. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
this is
figure
a-
out for myself,
A
Yeah.
lot bigger,
just because the scale.
yeah, the scale of this operation.
Didn't
Yeah.
you mention at the beginning that camper was on the county right of way of the road?
It is, yes. And, that was, again, another issue that I had is you can't park that close and leave it there. If it's not operable, you cannot be
Yeah.
that close to
I
the
mean, it
road.
got there somehow. They either drove it, drug it, hauled it.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
mean,
I didn't ask that, but in some of the photos, you can see my vehicle next to it where it parked because that's how close it is on the roadside. So by no means is this a perfect situation, but I do think he's working to improve it. So, and one thing I was talking about was, if we did something like condemning the home because I haven't even walked in the home and I'm not sure I want to at this point. But if I did that, then all of this stuff would probably be left,
Mhm.
so getting that improvement done, I think is very important, and he's working hard to do that.
So I would think, are we in agreement for her to set some time limits up to 90 days to get it cleaned up? Get Andrew to work this zoning thing out so we know where we stand on that, on this project, and then revisit it. In the
You want to do
future.
a 60 or a 90? What do you think?
I think the camper might be the hardest issue. Like I said, he's worked hard and he's done a lot. It'll depend on how wet it is. I mean, I know we're coming into summer, but it's still spring, and moving that in, you can tell it's pretty muddy there.
We could do a 60 and then revisit it after
That's
that.
true.
We could
That is true. Yeah.
have that discussion with him once. I think we're, just so we can see things moving forward to get the neighborhood cleaned up.
Which, I think you can see good
That's
progress
what-
there.
Yeah, you can see that.
Now, the next issue is the Coon Club Road when we've got out there, and is it similar? I haven't drove past it.
Okay, so Coon Club, when you say Coon Club Road, are you talking about the trailer sitting on the right of way?
Yes.
Okay, so the trailer sitting on the right of way belongs to a Davis. The people that own the property do not own the trailer, it's relatives. And I'm still trying to make contact with that one particular girl that they say is the owner of the trailer. The ideal was to move the trailer up the hill, and you can see there was a half-formed road, and then weather changed and it turned to mud, and they just brought the trailer and dumped it. I am told time and again nobody's living there, but then I've heard from community that yes, they are.
Now, so it's a actual mobile home,
It
okay?
is-
And
Yeah, trailer.
is there a requirement for a permit to locate a mobile home?
So they would have to have septic in order to have any type of a facility where you reside.
Okay.
And you have to have a septic permit before you get a utility permit, before you get a building permit to put the building on site. So I think probably what she's going to say, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't been able to get a hold of that girl, is that this is not the site that they're going to put it at. They're going to take it up the hill.
Okay, but it actually is a storage unit until all these
That's what I'm told.
obstacles are met.
Right,
So they should not be living in there,
right.
occupying it in any
And
fashion.
it can't be in the right of way. I mean,
Right.
that's just,
How
Okay.
far
that's
off
not
does that
me,
have
but
to be,
it's
Steve?
not okay.
I think it's 30-foot right of way on that road, and have to be 15 foot from the center, it's that close to the blacktop crossing.
Yeah, and they have a little pallet out for their deck or how they get in the trailer, and it's right on the road.
The pallet is?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's actually dangerous.
And I wasn't prepared to talk about this one, or I could have brought photos of it as well, but
As far as the trailer, we know the trailers are, what other items? Is it surrounded with items that, other things?
give me just a second here, let me find.
Thursday, I didn't see anything else around it there.
Just the trailer?
There's a cord that comes out of somewhere going there.
An extension cord?
Uh-huh, yeah. In which, if they were there at different times, I guess they would need that for lighting, but.
Nonetheless, we need to, do we know an address of the owner of the trailer and the property?
Not the trailer. So.
So we know the
Russell
address of the
and,
owner. Someone that obviously has
Harrison.
allowed it to come on the property. So what we need to do is send them a letter notifying them to move that trailer off of the county highway or the right of way
and what
and,
I-
and do it now.
what I
because
was
it's-
told
it's
is
a- it's
not
a
dangerous.
issue.
It's getting to be mowing
It's-
season and.
And it's a safety issue.
Yes.
I mean,
It is, yeah.
It needs to move. So,
Somebody would hit that, the
right.
county's liable.
Yeah,
Right.
and we knowingly allowed it to happen.
Mhm.
So I think 10 days Andrew, do you send that or should Kim send it or where do we go?
Well, the only thing I have to do with that is septic.
Yeah.
I mean, the right
So
of
as
way
long
is
as they
not
say
me.
they're not, staying
Living
there,
in it, I
then
mean,
you're
honestly, I'm
basically-
out.
okay.
Yeah, I can
Andrew, if
send
you
it
could-
if you give me the contact
Yeah.
information.
Could you provide that to him, Kim? So
Yeah.
that proper, and then notify the property owner that home has to be removed from the county right away.
What's this address?
They just refer to it as Coon Club Road.
Yeah.
What is the name of that road?
It's that one's on Sunflower, right? Yeah.
Alright.
It's right by Sunflower and Astor.
So the people that actually own the trailer
Are not the property owners.
are not the property owners.
No,
But the property owner obviously gave them permission to park it there. So the
Okay.
property owner, once again, is gonna get the letter.
Right,
So
because it's his property.
Yeah.
Correct.
they're allowing the nuisance to,
okay, so here is,
Oh, my.
wow,
that's how close.
Whoa.
That's how close we're
Let's,
talking.
it needs to move.
Yeah, I was trying to pull them up myself. Yeah.
So let me see. if I've got-
And what I noticed was
Here
the,
is the road behind where they're taking it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
you can
okay.
see there's pipe there where they're gonna make the road, whatever. It's just,
Nothing else? I mean, they just need to get it off the edge of the
I
road.
guess the pallet's not quite on the road unless they've changed that.
Well, that's a nice patio.
It is, yeah. It's real snazzy. And
So let's get them a letter and we'll see
You'll
Our
have to get
next-
the address to
Andrew.
Andrew.
So,
all right.
might be some large farm equipment moved through there, might destroy.
Oh,
it.
yeah.
exactly.
Well, they wouldn't be able to get through. I mean, even with Steve and his mowing crews and stuff, it's a dangerous situation.
Yeah.
Even, I mean, just for vehicles to try to pass on that road is bad enough, but then you're avoiding a trailer sitting on the road. That's,
Right.
I ain't even driving at night.
Right,
Through there and not
right.
knowing it's there.
Thanks, Kim.
Should we?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
thank you.
Next item up is minutes, the acceptance of the minutes from 4/18/23.
I make a motion to accept it.
And I guess I'm gonna second that because Randy, you were still
I
in
was absent
Washington.
that day, yes.
So, have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Chris, you're up next.
All right, so we've got the 4/24 payroll, in the amount of $161,643.53. I did not write the amount of the 5/1 claim docket on there, but we have the 5/1 claim docket. I'll note that total amount in the minutes. Life insurance, $1,491.01. Health insurance, $141,234.30. Let me see if I can get that claim docket amount real quick for you. Claim docket amount is $809,241.08.
I would like to, everything except the claim docket, the one area that I'm a little concerned about, there is a charge in there of $51,000 that's coming out of a 50,000 account. And what it's actually for is for, my understanding is for curbs and sidewalk at the new apartments down on 7th Street. And if I remember correctly, the redevelopment took a deposit from Ron Smith, and then they were going to use that money to pay for the sidewalks and curbs. I just want to make sure, it should not be TIF dollars. I don't believe it should be from that deposit that he put down. And I just want to make sure that that money, it's not that it's not owed, it's simply that we're taking it out of the right.
That's the exact amount in 4933. Because the bill was actually for like 77 some thousand.
Okay.
So let me, while Steve talks about his additionals, do you want me to run and get that information real quick?
Do you know how that whole transaction and everything went?
Mhm.
Great.
Yep.
Then let's approve all of the things except the claim docket, and if Chris gets the documentation, then possibly we can go ahead and let that slide through too. So, if I could get a motion to accept everything except the claim docket.
I'll make that motion, Randy.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the claim docket will, when Chris comes back with that.
I'll go get that while you talk about
Okay.
the appropriation.
Next one up is Steve Howe from the Highway Department.
Too many papers. Have an additional appropriation, I'm asking your approval of $607,000. This is getting our community crossings money where it needs to be. And the other additional appropriation for $57,000. This is into bituminous. This is, I don't know for sure that we're gonna need this money, but we need to have it ready in case we do with our paving. We won't know till we get our bids in. I've been told they should come in under the estimate. We won't know until we get the bids where they are or not. They just won't have the money there in case we do have to have it.
Have you sent the thing out for bids or do the,
I've got it. I'm not
Okay.
asking your approval of that.
okay,
Just a second.
And all this is, Steve, is the money that we had already pulled out of the other accounts to make it available, and now you need to appropriate it to do your grant match for the
Right.
community crossroads. That's, and we're all aware of that, going into these things, we don't know how much money we might get in the way of a grant.
Mhm.
So the money is never allocated in advance.
Until we get the
Then,
grant.
when we get the grant, then we figure out what our match has to be, and then we pull it out of the other road funds is basically what it amounts to in order to match the grant so that they can get their $1 million. And we're fortunate to get that,
yes,
no question. So
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Rio, we're happy.
Also have a transfer of $3,000 from SALT to training. This is to get, pay for, we hired a guy that had a CDL ag permit. He had a CDL with an ag permit on it. And he was told by the local license branch that after he worked for us rode with somebody with a CDL for 2 weeks, he could go take the test and not have to go to schooling to get the CDL. So 2 week period was up and he went down there to get it and they did some checking with Indianapolis and they said, no, he has to go to schooling. So I called Indianapolis to find out, to see what was going on with this. And they said, well, the local branch told him wrong and we'll straighten him out on that. So that really helps us,
Yeah.
So here we are for the second time. We did this once before with the guy who paid for his schooling. It's a little cheaper this time. Well, last time it was $3,600. This time it's $3,300. But we pay for the schooling. They sign a paper we got from our attorney that if they don't work for 2 years for the highway department, they have to pay us back. If they work for 2 years, then they don't have to pay it back.
Now, I didn't realize there was a difference between an ag CDL and a normal one.
Yes, there is.
It's news to me. I thought it
Yep.
was only
No,
one.
there is.
Well,
We
what
gotta-
choice we got?
So-
You can push the truck, I guess. You
Yeah.
can't drive it, so.
Drag it, push
So
it,
it's a
whatever.
$3,000 transfer.
Yes, from SALT.
Can't do everything with a pickup, can we?
No.
We've been real fortunate this winter with salt also.
Yeah, we have been.
Yeah.
So,
It's just the wind that won't lay down.
yeah, I noticed that too. more trees again this weekend.
Well, there's gonna be probably more today, because there's supposed to be 35-mile-an-hour winds.
That's what Steve made the comment to me. He spent more money on cutting trees up than he did on plowing snow
Yeah.
this year.
So just have your chainsaw sharpened.
Yeah. So I'd entertain a motion to transfer the $3,000 from salt to training.
I make a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Also wanted to get your approval of our bids. Community crossings is gonna be Boundary Way, Boyd Road, and Starlight Road. Our lit paving is gonna be, we had a little section of road out there on Thrifty and Tide, 4 or 5 years ago, we did with the milling. You probably remember that, Randy.
Mhm.
They ran short on the millings, the state did, on what they thought they was gonna have, or E&B did. So we couldn't complete that road, so we've got a little section of road there on, part of it's Tide and part of it's Thrifty. That's gravel and paved on each end coming in, but then there's a gravel section in the middle. I'd like to do that, and there's a little road back to, past Mike Simons and Phil Agents. Agents paid for that themselves. It's been 25, 30 years ago to have it paved. They paid for the paving. And it is a county road, and it's gotten in bad shape. I'd like to go ahead and while we're right there by it, I'd like to do it also.
I think that Tide Road doesn't connect between like Gerald and
Those camping ground, I used to live on Tide Road.
yeah. It's,
Yeah,
there's
what
another,
ain't paved is from the Twin Lake Cabin Rentals up to the Glenwood Hills campground.
Yeah.
The section through there is not paved.
Yeah.
That would make that whole area there, that loop.
They'll be done with that.
Yeah.
I have one question, Steve. We have this Forest Canton out here.
Mhm.
Who puts together the documents? Because, and then where do they go to pick documents up? Because we want to make sure that that's included as an additional.
On these bid openings, it's got bid opening date on June the 5th.
Okay, do you guys, I mean, does the highway department put that documentation together or does someone else?
We do the bids and the auditor's office does notice the bidders. Her and Marilyn have.
Marilyn and I have already lined out everything. Steve sent everything over to Andrew.
Okay.
We just conversated about that, with the bid packets, and then we've got our days lined up for our advertisement, 10 days apart, and then the deadline date is June 2nd at 4:00, and then they'll open it on
the
Monday
5th?
at the 5th.
And then is the Forest Canton documentation included?
No, I don't have
Okay,
anything in
we
there.
need to do whatever we can.
We haven't.
Whoever puts that together, I know we have estimates now, but whatever we need to do to get that bid, so we bid that in the same
My
cycle.
understanding was Kenny was.
Kenny Simpson?
Was gonna do that.
He can do it. I talked to him and I said, I don't know who does it, whether the county does it or whatever. And Kenny said he can do it, just so we don't have two people doing it. So I'll get a hold of Kenny or you
Okay.
can, either way, to
I'll
make
let you
sure.
get a hold of him and then
Okay.
tell him to get with me.
So he gets it, and that whole thing comes out, and that'll be the third, whatever that, so it stays separate. So we know what that is, and then that'll be
So we'll do theirs on the time, Forest Canton on the same time frame.
same, because whenever these contractors move into our area, generally we'll get a better price when they're
They're
doing it.
gonna be there on Starlight Road right there
Right.
by it.
And see, we'll be looking at, well in excess of $1 million worth of paving in and around there.
Yeah,
They'll
they'll
get a
both
bit-
those, it'd help the county a little bit, where they don't move equipment in, help them.
Absolutely, it's the time to do it.
Yeah.
So we'll take the bid on it.
500 mobilization on for each road. So
Yeah.
that would save at least that much.
So it'll be worthwhile. Okay, so I'll get a hold of Kenny.
They are putting the culverts in on Boyd Road, correct?
Yes.
Because we had to turn around the other day and come back, but I mean, that's fine with me, I don't care, but they're doing a lot of work out
Yeah, I
there.
think there was 13 or 14 culverts that we had to replace. And the other roads are all pretty good. We got them done. But
Kenny can send that to you.
Boyd had 13 or 14 culverts on them.
He did the
Yeah,
last.
and it's time for them to be
I did the
replaced.
last
They've been there for years and years.
So I'll get him.
I had one other issue I'd like to, Randy knows about this. I just want to make sure you guys are informed on the interest on our money we draw off of interest. We draw motor vehicle highway, local road and street, Cuban bridge, stretch road repayment, curb and wheel. Kim called last week and said that they had intercepted that money for last month. And, they can't find a policy on it or anything. This is money, I don't think I'm doing my job as superintendent if I don't fight for the highway department. So it's nothing personal with anybody, but anytime anybody tries to take money from the highway, I'm gonna let people know I'm not happy about that. This is money that we have always received. I tried to look up when the highway department was established. Can't find the date, but the county was established 209 years ago.
They've been getting interest ever since then?
Well, maybe.
We shouldn't have any gravel roads in the county then.
Yeah, I shouldn't. But anyway, I don't know how long we've been getting this, but, you know, after you do something for so many years, it looks to me like that kind of establishes the policy. Whether it does or not, it's money the highway department's gonna lose, so I wanna have my say-so about it. I don't like it if we're losing money.
And I think he gave me the numbers when we were out there, and it's a little over 13,000 in '22.
Last year it was $13,801.26.
That's a lot of money. That can go a long way.
That's, what's actually happening right now is that because we don't have an ordinance, and that's not the only ordinance we don't have. We don't have an ordinance designating where that interest goes. Chris actually reached out to what you do with it, and there's just no ordinance to split it or anything, and it's just been a practice that they've done through the years, and the ratios, I don't know where they came from, but they had certain percentages, they kind of scattered it out. And now what she's done is just accumulated into one account as an interest, where she receipts it all in as one lump sum, is what she's doing. And then we'd have to write an ordinance or whatever if we want to do something different with it to handle it. Now, one other thing Steve did bring up was about, you had your bridge fund cut back.
I think it was 2007.
Yeah, and we're looking for that too. He said you got some documentation on it one time, and do you know anything about what happened?
That was done, what I heard, how that went. Cume Bridge and Cume Cap. Cume Bridge went over to Cume Cap, so much percentage. So the taxpayer of the county didn't see any raise in their taxes. It just got shifted.
Right.
So the Cume Bridge got less funding. Cume Cap got more funding to help the county operate. What I got, that was before my time. That's been kind of I thought it hurt the county highway department, especially on bridges, because at one time, and thank goodness for how Steve has brought these bridges up to where they need to be. But at one time, probably 8-9 years ago, we was kind of battling, we was going to get funding to build bridges. And that hurt us. At one time.
We went 15 years without building a bridge.
Yeah.
You know, that really puts you behind on all that.
And I can't
then they
remember the
came up
number,
with-
Steve, but we think we lost several years ago.
Well, in
from that.
2017, it was a little over $1 million.
Total through the years. Right.
See, what the problem-
For like 10 years, you,
2017.
so about 100,000 a
The
year.
problem I heard that from the past superintendent, that, okay, he didn't have a choice. It went that way. But he said that when he always made the comment, Leslie Hardy's passed away now, but he always said the county didn't fix itself. We helped them, they just kicked the county down the road. They didn't fix their problem, they just kept spending. So that was a little history there. Yeah, that was kind of a sore spot through the years on
Yeah.
us as commissioners trying to figure out how we was gonna fix the bridges.
So my question is it continuing today?
Yes.
So we're still taking the money out of the bridge fund?
We're not taking it out, it just got shifted to
Right,
right.
right.
Where we got-
Because you're probably limited on your tax rates. And you probably then just made Cume Cap and Cume Bridge different. Because I know we're locked in on a lot of those rates. You can't just raise them arbitrarily. So I suspect that's what happened. And it was a, and so that's why we cannot find a record of it probably, because it actually did that versus actually taking it from the bridge
I
fund.
think what I got, if you raised it, the county, they didn't want to raise the taxpayers.
Yeah.
This way it kind of just, it floated through, but in-house.
So we
Take
need
from
to,
Peter and pay Paul,
Yeah.
that's what happened.
we need to look at a fund or an ordinance that sets it up for that specific.
Yeah, we need to look and
Bridge.
see how those dollars are being
Yeah.
distributed there and how it's spread. Yeah. We just need to look at it, find out what happened.
On this interest, I was told that some counties, 40 don't do this, don't divide it, and 20-some does. I talked to Spencer County, they don't get any of this money, but they get the interest off their LIP money, which last month was $3,080. So some counties, I don't know how other counties do it, but some of them may be giving them something else to adjust that or to make up for if they're not dividing that.
Well, when we're gonna end up with a block of money, and we're also hopeful, now interest rates have went up, it's gonna grow for us. And at some point, we're gonna have that money and it'll allow us to do things. So, she hasn't quite got it set up yet, but when it is, it will start throwing off some revenue and then we'll have opportunities. So,
I've also been told that they was thinking about setting up an account, not in general fund, but through the general fund for the interest, that all, that this money will go in there and anybody that needs money can apply for it. I think that'd be just like us playing the lottery, we won't never get a dime of that, in my opinion.
Well, I think my
There'll be a
comment,
thousand-
when we talked about that, Steve, my comment that night, I remember I said the highways money needs to stay at the highway
Mhm.
because that is road funding money.
Right. It's
And it has to be
money that
used on the
draws
road.
the
I
interest.
think even the interest would have to be used.
Yeah,
on the road.
legally, it don't have to be. I don't,
It
the
doesn't have
interest
to,
Not
doesn't
bank
have to be
interest.
legal,
but morally, I think it should be.
but it should be. It ain't right
Yeah.
to take money from us.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and our county roads need to be taken
Yeah.
care of.
Yeah, because I know Becky, you remember, and Randy, you too, what it was in the 80s. We never
Oh, I
had
know.
roads to go back to them days.
we have some tough winters.
I worked there when we tore up all our main paved roads. I don't want to ever see that happen again.
No.
Turned them back to gravel.
How is your bridge inspection going?
The bridge inspection itself is, we've had 3 bridges that they found fracture critical things on them that gives us 30 days to repair them. One's repaired already, the other's being repaired this week, and the other one will be next week.
Okay.
Our biggest problem with the bridge inspection is NDOT has a new guy over the bridge inspection, took over about 4 months ago. I told you guys before how we had to change these signs around. This will be the 3rd year that we've had to break our sign budget. Well,
Do it
now,
again.
now they're requiring an advanced fate warning sign from every bridge. You gotta go back to the nearest intersection, each direction, and post a weight limit on that bridge. That's signs that nobody's ever put up before. I ordered them in November. I haven't got them yet. I was told again this morning I would have them by Wednesday. This new guy is threatening to close all our bridges if we don't have them up to the end of May, which, that's not gonna happen.
So we got around 100
We
bridges,
got
so there's
100
probably gonna be
bridges.
several hundred signs.
Our consultant sent me an email Friday, and he was telling me about it, and I emailed him back and talked to him about it. And he knows what's happening with the signs. They're having trouble getting the material to build the signs, and every county in the state's having to do this, so we're not on top of the list for this, I guess, for the signs, so
We don't have a lot of clout, small
No.
county in the southern part of the
No.
state.
we're having to wait on our signs. And he said he was gonna talk to NDOT and see if there's a workaround on this. He said it's not practical and it's not safe to close your bridges.
Surely we could get an extension of
Well,
some
that's-
type on
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
We can't close our bridges
No.
because of a sign being missing,
Right.
when there's nothing wrong with the bridge.
I think we can get around that one.
Yeah, if not, we'll talk to our state reps.
Exactly.
That's what I was gonna suggest next, if we can't.
That's what they're there
I don't
for.
think anybody wants to wear that badge,
No,
so I
I
think
don't know
it'll
if
be
this
okay.
guy's on a power trip or what this,
No, he's
Yeah.
new.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve. Samantha Hirsch, Prosecutor's Office.
Alright, our first thing is the expenditure out of the law enforcement fund. We have a little over $3,000 in a fund that comes from forfeitures. So whenever we take property, usually vehicles, from individuals who are charged and convicted for dealing, I think that one particularly that was in the letter, a meth case. So we have a little over $3,000 in this fund. It's a non-reverting fund for us to use to help support law enforcement. One of the things that we buy every year are little Indiana criminal code books to hand out to the officers. So we're just requesting the $455 that it costs to buy those criminal code books come out of that law enforcement fund instead of our typical budget, which is where they paid for it out of before. But we don't really have a lot of things that we are using that money in that non-reverting fund for currently. And so we request that the money.
I'll make a motion to.
Any questions? I mean, it's,
Money.
this is one of these things, if she has the money, she can spend it for that. If she has a year where she doesn't have the money, she'll have to revert back to the original source, so I don't. Fine with me.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
And then I'm also on for the lease agreement with Tell City Electric for our office. I do believe that our lease is actually going to, our rent is going down.
Yes.
Um,
That,
No.
So that's a plus.
Yeah.
The only other thing that would be better was if I had a place here at the courthouse in this area, but other than that.
How much is it going down, Samantha?
I think it's about 300 a month. that's
I
going
think that
down.
was right. They pretty much redid all the leases and got them kind of on the same, same
Per
plan.
square foot. You're gonna get me started now.
Is there room in this courthouse
Why do you
to
take my
move the
thunder?
prosecutor's office to the courthouse?
I have no idea. It is a hassle for us to have court here and have our office
Right.
down at
This is where I think, what I would like is to hire a space planner to take a look at this entire building. Someone that does these kind of, and I have no idea what they might find and or what it might cost. But just to look at the whole floor plan of the building, because right now, I know behind the courtroom over there, they've got a room that's just piled full of junk.
Mhm.
I know the election people need shelves and that in there to store theirs, and they're looking for space.
We have Teresa's office.
Yeah, but I mean, she needs quite a bit more space than that.
Yes.
But if we could move, it's just as an example, I was out here one day last week and she was over there sitting, waiting for court. And I said, what are you doing waiting for court? Well, I've got a case in 20 minutes. By the time I drive down to my office and drive back, she's not going to be able to accomplish anything. Whereas if her office was here, primarily all of her business is next door.
Right.
It would make their organization so much more efficient.
Right.
If they were just located here.
You have the judicial side and whether it
Yeah.
should be somewhere in the
Yeah.
building.
We don't want to
would be so
intermingle
much
that
easier.
because we're supposed to be
Right.
clearly separated, but just to consider it, to
Mhm.
see if there is the potential or what might be done, how it might be addressed. Find a space planner that would tell us what we could and could not do and what kind of costs would be involved with it.
And it would also, in that sense also, you're talking almost $20,000 for a lease agreement for 1 year. That could actually pay for a space
Well,
planner and,
Yeah, then in advance here, see, she also has to pay her utilities.
right,
She has to pay for all the maintenance, for the carpet, everything
Cleaning.
else that she does, cleaning that. The courthouse currently, we're paying for that anyway.
correct.
So those revenues would return to us in this. The efficiency, if you figure out what time is wasted driving back and forth, her office will become substantially more efficient if
Right.
she's here located.
How many
Yeah.
employees do you have?
Oh.
That we'd have to look for a room for.
We have 8.
8.
So I'm included in that. So there's
Yeah.
8 of us. We have 2 people that sit at a front desk area so that if one's out or one, needs to go to the bathroom or something like that, you don't have to come up and cover the desk for a little bit. And then everybody else has their own office space right now.
Access
You know,
up there's
Randy,
not the
back
greatest
when we
No,
looked
it's
at
actually
the,
pretty terrible.
third
back
floor.
when we looked at the, when we remodeled the armory, that was a thought, but that wouldn't help you have
No,
it there. That was a thought, there was some extra room back there that we're using for storage yet to have office spaces, but we had to stop somewhere. But
Well, see, then an alternative to that might be to create some type of a something for the voting people, the election board or something, where they would, because they don't necessarily need, they need to be able to store these voting machines and effectively be able to get them in and out and whatever they have to do with them. That might be an option, to move them to the armory, free some space here, and I'm just speculating here, because I don't know. But do something like that where it's, and if we need some kind of storage, maybe that becomes the storage there, where you're not accessing it daily. You need to preserve maybe records or something. I know they have some old law books behind there in that one storage room, and speaking with the judge, I mean, everything's electronic anymore. So, I mean, we just have to go through some of these things to see if it makes sense.
And we don't, I mean, I don't, neither of my deputies or I currently bill the county for mileage, but theoretically, under the law, we could.
Right.
And so I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but it adds up when we're here 2 or 3 times a day on some days, coming back and forth.
You probably should be.
Well, the problem, the cost of whatever your salary is, your staff salary, the lost productivity is what the big expense is, because, I mean, you can't work, even though it seems like a short distance, it's just like here, the 20 minutes. You could have got down there to your office, went up, sat down, got back up, drove back down. But that's a third of an hour that was just basically not utilized. So, and that's across 8 of you, if they have to come to court for some reason. But
Has
that's what our
the
cost is.
prosecutor's office ever been located? I don't guess it's ever been located in this courthouse.
No.
What about the other
I'm not
courthouse?
I don't know, when it was in Cannleton,
Mhm.
I have no idea.
I don't think so. I don't think they had space up there.
Yeah, that needs to be.
And where was that? I mean,
The old courthouse in Canton.
The old
I don't
courthouse.
believe it was.
it was in the old courthouse?
I don't believe it was.
There are a lot of.
I don't think there's
places-
enough room up there. I remember being in there, and I can never remember the prosecutor being there.
Did they ever research when they built the new jail about, and I've talked about it over the years, but I've been here almost 8 years now, but there is room here to add on. We definitely don't have any room to put them in, but there would be room out over here to put them over here.
Oh, yeah, there's room here to build on.
Yeah.
That would be the last thing we'd want to
Yeah, I
do. We'd
understand.
want, if we can utilize existing space in some more efficient manner,
I
it would
just
be our.
throw that out there. I
But
know
there's room here on the courthouse property here for an addition, but I think that would probably blow our budget out of the water, something like that. Now, my next question is, Samantha, would they entertain like a year's lease or something like this, or a month by month or something at the electric department, so we can sort out some of these details? Because I think this one's written up
It's
through
for a year.
28.
This is for a year, right?
As far as I knew, they're all year leases.
Oh, wait a minute, and extend through December 2028.
Oh.
The initial term of this lease shall commence on the date of signature, extend through December 31st, 2028.
Is there a termination clause, like 30 days?
I'll have to ask, because,
If there is, I don't believe I
It's,
read.
Let me see, it can be canceled at the end and then one current term or extend for a new 5-year lease agreement.
okay, when I had talked to him, we talked about a year lease, and I really just didn't even pay attention to the fact
Right.
that that one said 5, so I'll ask.
Ask them about that, because I would like for us, and I don't know how fast anything could happen, but I can't envision probably successfully doing anything any quicker than a year. By the
Right.
time we get the floor plan, then we're gonna have to get the others involved with what a planner suggests to make sure that they don't see a problem.
Mhm.
And then we'd have to entertain the costs associated with how we'd fund it and those things. So it would take some time.
Okay.
So ask them once if everybody's
Yeah.
okay with
We
that.
need to look at it.
Ask for about a 1-year lease agreement.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
And see, and just tell them that it just, we're considering moving you back into the building.
Okay.
So it's more efficient for you.
I
So,
appreciate it.
all right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Animal shelter update.
Okay. I'll tell you what I have, and then Molly can tell you what she has. The security door is complete. and I guess in working order, Molly? Yeah, it's working good. And I called Thomas Glass on April 25th to the door that you had spoken about on the back side of the building. They're gonna look at that and replace that door.
He came,
Oh, did he?
he came Thursday and measured.
Yeah, he's pretty quick about getting all that done. The guttering is still not down, and I'm very concerned about that because it's been about 6 weeks now. And that is actually holding up two of my other contractors with the power washing and the painting. I called, I've made several phone calls, I have them all documented, left messages and text messages and voicemails that we need to get this done. At least get it down so we can get the other contractors on the move. And I met with Keyser Electric on Friday to go in and look at the fire exit signs. And he's going to get a hold of a PE to make sure everything is done right, which would be Kenny. He's local, Kenny Simpson. And then about a security camera on the outside. I said I didn't want anything extravagant, just would like to have something where you can look at it on a monitor and then have the app on your phone to tell who's coming and going and what if an animal was brought there and just dropped off. Molly, here we go. And Andrew, I need to get that release paper drawn up because Molly is ready to do some painting on the inside.
Okay.
And she really don't want to bring anyone in until they sign this release because of injury, in case it come back on the county.
Okay.
And is that true, Molly? She's waiting for that. The roofing company, Molly still had a couple of leaks, and I contacted them last week. Let's see. Yeah, last week I contacted them, and their guys are in Tennessee. They should be back sometime this week, but they've been really good about when I contact them, they're usually here the next day, so I'm waiting for the lady to call me and get those leaks fixed, and then we'll have the roof, hopefully, cross your fingers, the roof won't leak anymore. And then Molly and I are working on doing some, getting letters drawn up, a basic letter drawn up to send out to businesses and companies for donations for the animal shelter. And because we do have some people with organizations and companies that are wanting to give, but we do need a letter for their purpose too. And that's about all I have on that. It's just waiting on contractors. And you had called about a mold abatement. And she's waiting on contractors also.
That's the story of our life.
Yes.
Primary, yeah, that's the time of the year.
Yeah.
This time, for some reason, there's a shortage. One thing, I think it's your ceiling, right, Molly, is where you're having your biggest problems with, you might find that just tearing it all out, throwing it all away and putting new in may be the quickest solution. I mean, and then repainting the grid once it's down. It's an option, because I don't know, I just don't know where you'll go, but something that's moisture resistant type of a ceiling in there so that it, works for you.
Most of that is drop ceiling, correct?
It's all dropped.
All drop ceiling, that's
Yeah.
what I was thinking.
So if we can hold on to the grid and repaint it, maybe, and then just put whole new panels in there, that might be.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And we've replaced the tiles that were completely destroyed.
Yeah.
Because there's some tiles in the very back.
Yeah.
So we have done that.
That might end up being your easiest, most cost-effective way. Just tear it down and put new ceiling in. And use that.
And Greg has said that if whatever you need, electrical, computer, his genius mind can do it all.
I wrote down camera, so just holler at me.
So,
And,
type of-
and I'll do it as free as I can for you, basically. You want no labor.
What, really?
What type of insulation is above them tiles?
It's rolled out pink, isn't it?
is there insulation above the tiles?
Yes.
Okay. So there's also some against the roof. So,
Mm-hmm.
And that's that pink foam.
Yeah, they foamed
It's just
that.
a pink foam board.
styrofoam or something.
Yeah, it's a pink board.
It's like 4x8 sheets of
Yeah.
that pink.
Is your insulation probably above the tiles is okay? You could reuse
That's
it
what
or
I'm
not?
concerned about.
Yeah.
That's why it could hold the mold also.
Yeah.
I knew some of that.
In the closet, that's where it is.
I knew some of that was where it was leaking really bad there in the one office, and it kind of fell through, and I seen all that insulation, and I'm going, oh, my.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, right now it's waiting on contractors.
Can the roofing company take care of that?
No, they
If it's
just,
their leak, then why do we have to fix it?
they basically do the roofs and,
Where the closet was, that was an original leak of why the roofing company got brought in the first place.
right.
And it's still leaking. Correct.
Part of the damage and the mold started before the roof was repaired.
That could very well be,
Yeah,
you know, it was,
because it set, what,
because
4
they
years?
didn't coat it with a roof that was in good shape. So obviously it probably was.
No, the roofing company has been very good about when I call, and Molly, you know this as well as I do, that they're right there and
They've been very responsive. I just think that we got a bad job from the get-go, if I can be honest. And now we're paying for it. We're paying catch-up and trying to mitigate the areas of leakage.
well, it does have
And
a
it's a
10,
big roof.
it does have a 10-year warranty, so that's one good thing. And, you know, they've never hesitated to, when I call them, they've never hesitated to say, well, but they've been very good about it so far.
What I'm hoping is the next time is we can just get a good coat
On
over the
all of
whole thing.
Mhm.
And I wish that's what they would have done the first time, but they came out and was just trying to spot fix. And that's,
Mhm.
they're just doing what they're told.
Well, we can request them to do that.
So I think, I personally think that's what needs to happen.
Okay.
Just because of the way the leaks are in the building.
And if you're there and I'm not, or whatever, just tell them that we would like the whole thing coated.
I have
Okay,
I did speak to Naomi because you wanted,
Naomi Holloway.
with the
Paint
paint.
specs, yes.
And you all were waiting on a bid for the additional door. You were waiting
Yeah.
for.
Mhm.
So the bid that she submitted is the bid that she wants to submit. She is going to throw in that door.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no need for, she's not gonna resubmit.
Do we need to award that painting contract today? It's been 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I mean, what's she using for paint? That's-
She's gonna use, the PPG, and it's a 5 to 10. So I printed the data safety sheets and then the,
This is probably not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what okay, it's a latex. Satin.
she said that's what they're gonna use, that's what they use for the outside of the building. They painted Huber Funeral Home,
On the outside of it?
and that's what they use.
Okay.
It gives a good finish for the weather, and then it's about she said 5 to 10 years on the finish.
That's generally, look at paint for the outside of buildings, 7 years if it's a decent paint job. So she's right in the 5 to 10.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's using a good quality paint. She's gonna get it from Bauer,
That's fine.
so she's also staying local too.
That's good. Deb, you got to talk to her about any paint for the inside if you needed it.
No,
Okay.
not yet. that's on the list to do.
Okay.
So that was that. You good with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I would think rather than a satin,
Oh, no, we
something
don't
that
have
was a little slicker, because generally it's a better weather resistant paint.
Okay.
I can understand why the funeral home wouldn't want anything with kind of a sheen to it. They're, you know, it's the nature of their,
Correct.
but the, you know, if she went up to maybe a semi-gloss or something like that,
Okay.
it generally is a little more productive.
That would be more of a
Protective.
cost though.
Okay.
Maybe, maybe not.
I think-
Might be slightly, but I think probably our biggest cost is labor.
Okay.
You know, if it goes up $2 a gallon on, you know,
That would be fine then.
a couple hundred gallon, or not couple, but I mean, whatever a gallon is, it wouldn't be a lot, a couple $100 or something.
Yeah,
So it
so
shouldn't
she
be a
would,
lot.
she would be all right for her to go ahead and do
I
that.
would if
Okay,
it's
about
something,
it.
yeah.
Okay.
That way it's a little shinier.
Yeah.
And a little more protection.
Okay.
Okay.
You wanna approve that? I mean,
I'll make a
motion to accept it?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Have her get on, well, get the gutter down and then have her get on it. We gotta get it power washed though too.
So, well, I spoke with Mark
Phillips.
with the power wash, and he said all I have to do is just when the gutters come down, call him, and he'll work it in to get the building
Okay,
power washed.
so the gutters is the holdup.
The gutters,
Guttering is
the
the
gutters, the holdup.
Yeah.
And I asked Becky if I can reach out to make a phone call. I'm not sure, but we're going into 6 weeks now.
Yeah,
Um,
it's been 6 weeks.
I think that,
And that's gonna push
you're right.
the
We need,
paint.
we need to contact him and make sure that he's going to get them down in a timely fashion, and that's,
I think we're
whatever.
past the time. of that.
okay, well, 7 days then. If he doesn't get them down, then contact the other second bidder.
Mhm.
And if he's interested, have him do it. That's just what I would do.
All right.
We have to move this on because it's holding everybody else up.
It is.
Yes, it is.
So,
Yeah, if it wasn't holding several other
Right.
steps up,
Yeah.
then,
It wouldn't be that relevant, but right now, those gutters have to come down. Or we'll get a marginal clean job, we'll get a marginal paint job,
correct.
you know, all because of,
And we don't want to do that.
Right.
So,
Randy, should we make a motion on that?
sure,
That's it's pretty good.
that sounds like a,
We'll
Good
let
idea.
counsel on somebody. If they-
Yep. Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
all those in favor?
Aye.
all right.
7 days, who's contacting?
I will.
All right,
Thank you, Becky.
Does that,
Thank you all.
would a phone call or a text be sufficient?
we just want to make sure that we have record of
Do you
notification.
have an email too?
I know I don't have an email. I have his phone number and I've been texting and.
Phone number and texting both, I would say. And then
Okay.
you got the record for the text.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, just so we have record of notification,
all right.
so.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're down to my list.
Oh, boy.
I don't think either of you have seen this, but Andrew's been working on I guess it'll be an ordinance on the vacating of a road. Will that be an ordinance we need to do? It's a procedure so we follow it, because the one gentleman has the one parcel of property up there that goes into the creek, and the GPS keeps taking everybody down the road, then they have to try to turn around, and he just wants to cut it off, which I'm supportive of that. But we don't have an actual written process to follow. So I asked Andrew to put something together about notifying the neighbors and, you know, the process. So he's got that put together. I'm assuming we're ready to share that, and maybe at the next meeting, draft an ordinance.
You don't really have to draft an ordinance. I mean,
How do we make that of record so that the next time somebody wants to vacate a road, it's, who's,
I would just have a kind of an informational packet that we would have in some of the county offices. So they contact, say, hey, I want to vacate this road, say, well, follow this procedure, follow the code. And,
Okay.
we have the step-by-step, but you wanted me to kind of generate some forms where they could
right,
fill in.
as an
Yeah,
example,
as
you
an
know,
example, yeah. And then,
because they could, you know, these guys are not attorneys
Yeah,
to make them do this. It's just so they can fill in the blank and then
Yeah.
other neighbors.
you don't have to pass anything since the state code. All of this is just easing the process for citizens as opposed to making them figure it out, hire an attorney and do the process.
Okay.
That's how it worked in the past, that
Yeah.
that citizen had to hire an attorney, then he came with the attorney.
Yeah.
They,
And it makes
they notified the landowner,
Yeah.
nearby landowner.
Yeah, it'd still be on them. We're just kind of giving them guidance so they see that the code says do step one, so they know what's involved with it as opposed to having to look through the code and understand what all
So
of
that would be probably great because I've actually had people contact me how to do that. So, well, you have to get a hold of an attorney. This way we have go pick up a packet
Yep.
and I would tell them what
They've
to
got
do.
a form and
Yeah.
like I told Andrew, if you could just get some examples, hereby you're notified to attend at this certain time a meeting because we're going to vacate this road. You're an affected property owner, that they can mail out to get, cards back and what show they've been notified. And then they could do it themselves, without the need of an attorney. But where do we store this within the system so it's readily accessible? See, like I'll go back and search ordinances, but it won't be there. Where do we store that so that the next time because we don't have the vacating roads that
Could it
often.
be on our website?
That's what I was thinking, like a
Yeah.
PDF on the website.
So
and then-
maybe we start something there where we just store
Mhm.
procedures or something. Here's the process to do X. And then that way anybody could visit it. Maybe that's something we.
Yeah, it would be
should-
easier that way.
Yeah.
Than going and
And then-
digging in files.
Right. Then if there's a question, it's right there clearly. I think it's a good idea. So we'll look at that the next meeting and in the meantime, it's pretty straightforward what he's put together. I can share it or he can share it to everybody so you can look at it. The other thing everybody got a letter from the CVB, I'm assuming, right? And my thinking is, do we want to invite them to the next meeting to discuss what the challenges are and what's the problem with the appointments and the inability to attend so we can
They have
understand that?
two openings right now, don't they?
No, they
No?
don't have any openings. What they did was in that letter, they suggested that if you don't attend a meeting for 3 meetings, that
Mhm.
their bylaws allow them to remove the people. And it's not in the county rules. So that's why I thought we'd invite them and we could just bring some clarity to this so we could find out exactly what the issue is. But it's not in the county ordinance that established the CVB. So if everybody's okay with that, I'll send them a letter and ask them to attend the next meeting. Okay, and then the other thing that came up was at the council meeting, they're applying for a COPS grant. And it's always a funding thing. And the ones I've read before, they basically, you apply and like the first year, they'll 100% grant, 75% the second year, 50% the third year, 25% the fourth year, and the fifth year you have to pay for it 100%. And then you have a commitment to keep this officer employed for a period of time. They're all a little different depending on the year and how they do that, but it will end up causing the county additional funding for something like that. Similar to the discussions that Kim had here, I don't necessarily want to have a sheriff's deputy nor anyone else in harm's way, one of them needing to go visit some situation that might be a little ugly. There needs to be a second one on duty or someone that can then go, we don't want to put our officers in danger. So I understand why they're going down that. Some suggestions came up about the insurance and who they're covering and how that's working. And I would like to just accumulate some information from our insurance providers to see what kind of options are out there. I, for one, would like to explore like a cafeteria plan. And what that amounts to is that an employee can kind of pick what works for them instead of one size fits all. And again, it's about like the floor plan here on the courthouse. I don't know where this will go, but I'm just thinking, let's reach out to them to see what kind of options are out there. I know most providers, and I don't know whether the county falls into this or not, but most providers anymore require if a spouse is working at a organization that provides health insurance, they have to take it there rather than taking it you know?
Counties like that.
Yes,
It's like that now.
it is like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Do they
Yeah.
apply the birthday rule or what? I know when I was still working if your husband or your spouse worked at another place, whoever's birthday fell first in the year, that insurance would have to pick them up first.
I'm not,
And that's all.
and I'm pretty sure on that, Randy, what I just said. I'm pretty sure that's
Okay.
how we were set up.
Yeah.
What, me being on the trustees for several years, but that'd be a good question to ask
Right.
again, make sure.
And then I don't know, do you know, you may know this, Randy, at age 65, is it mandatory they go on Medicare and off of the county?
That's another good question, but I believe so.
Okay. See, because that's a common practice too, you know, is that when 65 hits and Medicare is available, that the county then is no longer is obligated for this. And then there's some other tailing things on it. I know there was some language in there years ago about 20 years of service, and then you could continue on the county for, I guess, I think till age 65 is how it was written. But whether that's still on there or not, I'm unaware of it. But I know last year our insurance costs raised in excess of 20%. I think it's more like 25 or 27, something like that. So it's a continuing thing, and I'm just thinking, let's reach out to the providers and just collect some information once, because without that, we're just guessing. So we can kind of see where we are. And I don't know that the insurance has been visited. I don't, maybe you could tell me, Randy, recently or not, or what's been a while.
Probably the last time we really had an overhaul when we switched brokers, providers, from Franzman's to APAC, that they pretty well, it's really hard. It's what goes up is what our reinsurance costs.
Mm-hmm.
That was always bidded out even before we switched to APAC.
Right.
And at that one time, and what we could look at too, but probably know the answer before we even look at it, go out and buy the policy. See, we did that also back then, and it was just, we had to go self-insure ourselves.
Yeah.
To try to roll that dice and save some money. We couldn't afford to just go out and buy a true policy and pay for it in one lump sum for.
Right.
So.
I know the Apex went out and they had current providers, and then they solicited bids from two other companies that were higher than the current provider. So
they usually go after, I've seen it leases, more 4 or 5 down to 3 companies, whoever wants to bid on it.
Right.
And it seems like that's getting smaller and smaller out there.
But I'm just I try to dump this on Chris maybe if I can get by with it to collect some information, and then we'll distribute it, and then we can have maybe a little more informed discussion at the next meeting if we can get it put together in that time frame, just to see where it goes.
We are better than we was several years ago. So
I don't think that's setting the bar wrong.
no, but
Steve remembers
those days we were struggling to.
losing his highway budget to insurance. I think he probably fondly remembers that also.
Yeah, because if it wouldn't be for the highway,
Yeah.
the other employees probably wouldn't have insurance there for a year there or so.
Yeah. Then the last thing I got on my list is we have an opportunity for a charging station out on either the interstate or in your local or both. Takes a private entity to get involved. The county applies for it, and a private entity has to run it. So if anybody knows of any interest, has to be submitted by the end of May. So the time is of the essence. So,
I have one thing, on the Sycamore Road where the big cleanup was. Have you contacted, or you said you were gonna contact Steve Seibert about putting poles up?
I did talk to him, but we haven't really discussed it much
Yeah.
more.
If you could,
I think I got an email, there was another couch dumped out there.
yeah, there was, and they, recycling went and got, or the city went and got it. Yeah, the city went and got it.
it ended up at the recycling.
Yeah, it ended
Let
up.
me touch base with Steve again,
Yeah.
and then if we have to, Steve, can we put him on the road right away, or is that County's right away down to that?
Half of it's county, half of it's county.
That's all counting the driveway.
Okay.
So
But on the,
are we to the north? Does the county have the north side of the road? I know you said one time
I
it's,
think it's private. There, I saw it. Maybe not.
so the question is setting depending on what kind of utilities out there, whether we can set the pole there without Candleton's okay, which I'm sure they would be okay with it, but
I would think so. We'd have to ask them.
Yeah.
Then the next question, how would we fund the cameras and who would monitor them? That would be
that is the question. Now, the cameras, I think, are relatively inexpensive.
we'd probably get the one that's the internet, not
Yes.
internet, but
Hooked up to,
service.
and that would be the next thing, whenever you do go out there, take your cell phone along with you,
See if you got,
make sure you got service, because they'll hook in, and I think there's a monthly fee associated with it, $5 or $7 or something.
might have to climb a tree,
Yeah. But, whatever that, I think they're relatively, we'll come up with the money somewhere if we can
Yeah,
get them and.
I was telling them, we just purchased a Cobra system for our farm, and it came with 2 cameras. It's got the ability for the app on the phone, and it's got 4 cameras. So, and it was $200.
Is it internet or is it?
It can be internet or it can, and then it's got, you can hook it up in your house on a small TV with 4 screens, or however many cameras you want to use. So,
Somebody told me the other day that they hunt and they like to put them out,
Mhm.
like what you're talking about.
Right.
It's off your
Zach
cell
has
phone.
those,
It-
right.
Yeah.
There's several
Cell
of them
service.
in the county, and they work very well.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of going online and taking a look, and then, like this incident, because I asked them, and they pretty well identified the day it was thrown.
right.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, then you just have to review that day's
Yeah. Like-
data, and the rest of it, becomes irrelevant, so.
Yeah, I'll ask Steve again and, nothing else, I'll get with him. We'll drive up there.
Find a spot, and then we'll get cameras ordered.
That's on both ends, correct?
I think, I would think so, but they keep throwing it in the same spot. I don't know what that's all about, but that one I'd target for sure. And if there's
Well-
another spot down farther on the road somewhere,
Yeah, because if they go in one end, they're
Yeah.
either gonna have to come out that end or drive
Right.
out the other
We-
end.
And
we need
if
to-
if they
You want the
notice,
load,
if
come
they
out.
notice one camera on one end, they might go in the other and go out that way too.
Mhm.
so I'd say 2 we put up and try to monitor both ends, and we'll see how this works out.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's worth a shot. Oh. Right.
It's not gonna be a tip, I apologize.
Okay, so is this coming out of,
If you pull back here,
okay,
that's the invoice. It was actually for 77, but we only had budget or had that amount right there. That's the money, that's the account that the money's in it.
and that is from,
Is this on the sidewalk?
yes.
Yeah, that's from Ron Smith.
So it's not coming out of TIF?
No.
Okay. Yeah. This is the,
It was from John Shear, that's why.
yeah,
Okay.
they had,
This is on the new.
they had taken the down payment from him
Okay.
on that property, and the redevelopment was holding the funds. And they agreed to spend it on the project now that it was moving forward.
What account is it gonna come out of?
That's coming out of that reserve money. that they-
Reserve,
Yeah,
it's just the reserve money
Over
that's been
him.
put aside, 4933.
Yeah, this is the mail.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
From John.
So now we need to have a motion to accept the claims document as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
It's approved then. Anything else?
Yeah.
Cindy, come up here.
Oh.
We're gonna,
I don't know if that, because you are in charge of the port, I think, the authority, which
Yes.
the railroad tracks runs through. I came last year and complained about those railroad tracks there at Troy. That is a minor job.
are we talking about it on
I'm-
66?
Yes,
On the road.
I know it's state. But can't you guys gang up on them and get them,
Cindy.
it just needs,
I hit him last night and I thought of what you said a year ago.
I'm sorry, it
can throw a
is
car out.
destroying vehicles.
Now, what, I think I said that, and there was supposed to be some work done. from
And
the
they
state.
moved it again,
So-
You mean the state highway?
Yeah, the state
Yes,
highway was
they're
supposed to
gonna
do some
redo
work,
that
and the railroad was
road.
supposed to be taking care of them.
But- it needs ground off, that's all it needs. It just needs ground off so people can actually drive through there without losing their vehicles. or their campers. I mean, it's
It will
it's really
actually throw
bad.
your car out of line
Yeah,
if you hit them
it
very
is
hard at all.
horrid.
Hmm.
And nothing says like, welcome to Perry County, to jump over that bridge and ride into Troy and have ice
So
cream.
you want it corrected, or you want us to put a sign up that says, this is
I
your
want
welcome
it
boat?
corrected. It's been on, I mean,
Hit 'em with a
it's been
nickel
over
grain truck
2
one time, it
years
about
now.
threw you down off the road.
Yeah, it's horrid. So,
It is
and
dangerous.
it's
because
an
it can throw
easy
you-
fix.
It
I
can throw
mean,
you in a path of another car.
yeah.
So what is it, just, the asphalt is up?
Is it the railroad that's too high or the asphalt, but it just needs leveled out? I think the grinding of the pavement. And what they're gonna do is come in and redo that road.
Then
And
they
it's
would
gonna
just
be
redo the
higher.
crossing.
It's gonna be a bigger mess. It's gonna, I don't know if it is, I'm not technical there, if it's the railroad. I wouldn't think they could be able
They
to
can't drive
do the
rails.
track. It has to be the road just on
I think
either
it's
side.
close. It's, maybe the road is, I don't know, might have dropped a little bit, but it's just, the
It
rail
is
is rough.
horrible.
There's a dip
But
right
when you
there.
go to the far right is a little better, but when you come back east, there's no good way to hit it.
No, and
You
then
just gotta
if
slow
you've
down.
got traffic coming, and it's a very used,
Yep,
you
there's an
know,
actual dip right there.
So this is probably gonna be a state highway
that's
Port
what I was
Authority.
coming for.
combo, because I don't know who, I know railroad crossings is theirs, but then you're on a state highway. So I think both of them have to be a participant.
Yeah.
in this.
Like yesterday.
That'd be a question for the Port Authority. They're probably more aware of it.
Yeah.
That's who actually,
They would know who
Phil,
to contact.
yeah, told us about it that one time, before you asked the first time, so.
I'll send them an email.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, Rand, hey, I was just kind of curious. I did get to watch a little bit of a workshop from a live stream. Are we getting any closer on having a meeting?
We're grinding at a slow pace. We sat down, David Agent, myself and John Shear sat down with Dave Goffnett and Aaron Emerson and had a discussion, and they were going to provide some actual costs of operation numbers to John. And he was going to, and we're going to look at some altered language. In essence, what's happening is the PCDC is a nonprofit organization. And the gist of it is they were collecting a little additional funding so that they had funds available. As an example, say these charging stations, you need to have money and you need to have it now. And they were actually accumulating funds so that they could be reactive in the event an opportunity came up. And we had that discussion. We felt like the county could be reactive if necessary, and we would just preserve those excess funds in an account for economic development at the county level. So that's kind of where the discussion was going. And they were going to provide some numbers to John, and he hasn't said anything to me, so I think he's probably still waiting for him.
Okay.
So that's kind of where we are. But
I did,
still in the works.
little information on the same subject. I did
Okay.
have a chance when I was on my business trip I had a presenter came to us from Arlington, Virginia, Chamber of Commerce, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. She's from Danville, Illinois, small rural area. So after meeting, went up and talked to her for several minutes there, told about our situation, how do you grow your small communities. I said, we need people. She touched on, you got to have things for them to do. We're aware of that, nightlife or different things like that. She said, young people, daycare is important, that we see that. And she said, be patient. It's a long, slow process. I said, well, I'm aware of that.
Yeah.
So she didn't really have any really easy fix, but I think we're sort of on what needs to be done, but it's not an overnight fix.
Right.
So,
But if we don't start, we'll be in the same position next year.
exactly.
So we just have to
Exactly.
try some
So-
things and
Anything we can do to try to enhance that, I think it's good. But I just thought I'd share that information with you.
Thank you.
if there was a crystal ball out there that answered all those questions, we.
Yeah, yeah,
We
we
need
would
to-
have
That's
it,
how
and everybody else
Steve-
would too.
Yeah.
Steve's got that crystal ball this week.
Any other comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
A second,
All those in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Molly.